This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. If you haven't heard this story, this is really great news for America. And before I get into the story, let me just remind everybody out there that love wins. And as somebody who identifies personally, obviously most of you know my pronouns, which are square and whole, and someone who identifies as a hangnail, this is something that's really important to me. And obviously, after the month we just had, which we all obviously celebrated together, which was Pride Month, I'm hoping that we can continue Pride Month into July and August and September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, and then back to June and start over again. And of course, as somebody who has been subjected to bigotry and hatred all his life, I am so glad, and I'm actually beginning to pack my bags, store up my boxes, fill my gas tank, I'm kidding, charge my electric vehicle, and get ready to head to Michigan, because Michigan has passed a bill making wrong pronouns a felony, finable up to $10,000. And I know what you're all thinking. About time. What took so long, right? We need to start finding people, of course, who don't use the right pronouns. Don't be confused if some, that's the thing. It's like some people look at me, they're like, you look like a dude. But, I know that you're identifying as a she, her. Well, in my case, obviously, as a square and a hole. But I just looked at you and thought, man, well, that's wrong. Because all of these perceptions that society has formed have gone against science. Science doesn't say what a man and a woman is. Science tells us we could be whatever we want to be. Kind of like Aleister Crowley tells us in his books, do what thou wilt, be shall be the whole of the law. The law under love, of course. So, sarcasm laid on heavy here. Excuse me. A recently passed bill in Michigan would make it a felony to intimidate someone by using the wrong gender pronouns. Michigan State House of Representatives has passed a bill, HB 4474, a piece of legislation, it's a piece of something, all right, that criminalizes causing someone to feel threatened by words. That's right, threatened by words. So, does this apply to everyone? Well, yeah, I guess it does, right? It applies to Christians who are hurt by people that call them crazy. Or how about conspiracy theorists? Somebody calls them that. Does that work too? Oh, no, that does not work. But again, this is how you form a communist society, right? You start having hate crimes. You start censoring everyone on every side. And of course, you remove free speech because this is how you get us to, emulate China, right? Free speech is not allowed. You cannot disagree with Big Brother. So these are the ways and the steps that are taken. They use people's feelings, people who should obviously be stronger and less sensitive. They create a sensitive society so that people want to be protected by a corrupt government who doesn't really care about your feelings, that just wants to control speech so that when things become more and more clear to people who aren't using their eyes right now, even though it's already in place, this dictatorship that we're living under, this new world order dictatorship, well, by the time they realize what's going on, they won't be able to say anything about it, or they'll be imprisoned, right? Because this is how it works. It starts with something like this, and then it just starts filtering, because there's no definition of what hate speech is. There's no definition of what any of this stuff is, other than full-on censorship and control. So, under the new bill, get this, offenders are guilty of a felony punishable by imprisonment for not more than 5 years or by a fine of not more than $10,000. So we see people out there who do all sorts of disgusting things to kids or other people, men doing it to women, attacking them, all sorts of stuff. Not even close to 5 years, but using the wrong pronoun could be 5 years in prison. So we got to be careful, folks, right? I mean, this is great for us, wink, wink. Intimidate means a willful course of conduct involving repeated or continuing harassment of another individual that would cause a reasonable individual to feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened, and actually causes the victim to feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened. That's how weak and pathetic of a society that we're living in. But what they're really doing here is causing the rest of society to form into a large group of people who are opposing this. But obviously, me and you, everyone who listens to this channel, we're in on this. We're a part of this group of people because obviously, if someone identifies as a hangnail, I'm very for this. I want to be called the proper pronouns too. So, intimidate. Because we don't want to intimidate anyone. Now, how do you define intimidate? Well, anything that you say that someone doesn't like, they could say intimidates them, right? And that's, again, how we continue to get down a road of censorship, of restricted speech, et cetera, right? But if you say that you're intimidated by a man that dresses like a woman or a woman that dresses like a man, even though in a million years, nobody would really be intimidated by any of these people. They're pathetically weak and embarrassing. They're so tight. If you said that or did that, that would actually be like reversal hate speech, right? It would be a reversal intimidation, right? That's what they would say, of course, because it wouldn't fit in with what they're trying to do in their narrative. So the bill specifically addresses sexual orientation and gender identity or expression as protected classes. According to the bill, gender identity or expression means having or being perceived as having a gender-related self-identity or expression, whether or not associated with an individual's assigned sex at birth. Critics are accusing the bill of violating the First Amendment by compelling speech and outlawing basic expression of traditional scientific view of sex and gender. The bill was passed by the Democrat-controlled State House in a 59-50 vote. It now moves to the Michigan State Senate for consideration. If approved by the state Senate, it will be sent for approval to Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And this is, too, another thing that's funny about all this stuff. Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Kathy Hochul, right? And you can look at prime ministers and world leaders, Biden, Trudeau, Macron, whatever his name is, however you pronounce it. None of these people, it's so obvious that none of these people are actually voted in. Nobody in their right mind would vote these people in. Now, there's a small percentage, maybe like 10% of the population, who are completely insane, who support all of these people. But other than that, the majority of people, even Democrats, people who identify as Democrats or vote Democrat all the time, probably wouldn't vote for these people because they're completely nuts. These are the same people locked you down in these states during the outbreak and then never came, they don't have to address anything that they do. They just ignore everything when you ask questions. Well, why did you really want to lock us down? And all these jobs went out of business and all these people went broke and you made people have to quit their jobs because they wouldn't take a certain something, which proved to be correct, obviously, which was very clear from the get-go. Now they don't have to address it, but we're supposed to believe that these people are voted in. Of course, all these liberals are being placed in positions of power and they're pretty much it's a giant dictatorship of liberalism, right? What was the quote from Biden? Liberal world order, right? A liberal world order. That's exactly what it is. It's the new world order under the guise of liberalism. And these people are falling for it because they're like communism. They fall into the political party. They obsess over the political party. They vote for the political party. So Michigan lawmakers gave final approval to legislation banning conversion therapy for minors as Democrats in the state continue to advance a pro-LGBTQ agenda in their first months in power. The legislation would prohibit mental health professionals from trying to convert youths who are LGBTQ plus to heterosexuality and traditional gender expectations. And of course, even better than this, there's also this story out there from Michigan, which ties into this, of course, but about people in court being addressed under the proper pronouns, which we all agree with, right? Because if a man goes to court and then suddenly decides he's a woman because he knows he's going to go to jail and he wants to be in jail with women so that he could parade on the women, even though, we're all about equality, right? Men aren't stronger than women, even though their bodies are built. Science tells us, men are stronger than women, no offense, for the most part. Although today's men who could really say that, these men in today's society aren't really men. They're pretty embarrassing. They're putting on lipstick. But in the court, we want to make sure we address the proper pronouns and listen to this clip out of Michigan as well, where you can even hear how people's feelings are getting hurt in court. And it's a really, really important issue, people's feelings.
Welcome back to CBS News Detroit at 5. I'm Jeff Skaversky.
I'm Shayna Humphreys. Courts in Michigan could soon be subjected to a new rule that requires the use of preferred pronouns in court proceedings.
Our Elle Myers takes us to the Michigan Supreme Court, where justices are considering the new requirement.
The Michigan Supreme Court is considering a new rule for courtrooms across our state, requiring the option for preferred pronouns in court proceedings. So what does that mean? If adopted, this new rule would compel judges and court officials to use they, them, or other pronouns if requested in court proceedings.
Pronouns are an essential part of someone's gender expression, and using them correctly demonstrates recognition and respect for that identity.
In fact, advocates for creating the rule tell me it comes down to basic dignity and respect in our courtrooms.
Transgender people don't feel welcome, don't feel comfortable in our courts, and they report being misgendered, being made fun of by court employees, and sometimes being mocked by judges. And they have less trust in the court system than they do with law enforcement. So that shows you that there's work that needs to be done.
But opponents tell me there are a couple factors that make a move like this unfair.
One of the founding principles of this country is free speech and free exercise of religion. And part of that is we just don't force people to say things that they disagree with.
Bloomfield tells me requiring the use of preferred pronouns could violate religious beliefs and could be confusing when it comes to court transcripts.
Right? It might make sense in a courtroom as you're speaking, but when you have an attorney reviewing the written transcript, is the attorney referring to a single person or to multiple, say, defendants or plaintiffs? And that can be very confusing when you're looking back at a court record.
For the moment, there isn't an exact timeline for when a decision could be made on this matter, but we'll keep you posted. For now, reporting from Lansing, I'm Elle Myers, CBS News, Detroit.
So this is the society we're in now, right? Instead of actually talking about, hey, we need to make laws stricter in court for people who are criminals, who are multiple offenders of crimes, who, we let out of prison and they go commit another crime, et cetera, despite how intense the crime might be. If somebody's just a serial burglar, well, yeah, they probably should be locked up because they're clearly not learning their lesson. But those aren't things that we talk about. Maybe extending the amount of years, changing, how long somebody should be in jail for, maybe changing first-degree and second-degree murder because murder is murder. These are things that, in court, maybe we could change and talk about the law. No. We want to make sure that people's feelings are addressed in court, so we need to use the proper pronouns. So I guess the next time I'm in court, which I'm, not really ever in court, I don't think I've ever even been in court. But let's just say hypothetically, I get targeted for something like this. Even though how could they target me and say I'm going to go to jail for 5 years for not identifying someone as the proper pronoun? Because, of course, I always make sure I identify people with their proper pronouns, as long as they identify me as the proper one, which is hangnail. Today, that's my pronoun. That's how I'm feeling. But, and what do you do if somebody who changes their pronoun day in and day out, like Demi Lovato, right? Dimitri Lovato already went from they, them to him, her. So what if one day you're they, them, and the next day you're him, her, and you call Demi they, them, but on that day, Demi's identifying as her, she, even though it's really him, he. You know what I mean? Because it's Demi Lovato, him, he, right? Well, you could possibly go to jail with the giant cluster of confusion that is this woke liberal world order where nothing makes any sense. And obviously the best way to describe it is living in the upside down, because that's exactly what we're all living through right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, important issues being addressed in America, not about the food shortages, the water, the trains blowing up, all the crazy stuff we see on a day in and day out basis. Of course, the media dividing the people. It's to get the pronouns in place because people's feelings are getting hurt, and nobody sees the bigger agenda as far as what hate speech is about, and that's censoring speech. So eventually, when all these things are in place and they openly admit to what they're doing, even though they're pretty much doing it now, well, it'll be like China. This is just the way that they're bringing in communism here. They've come up with this, what they think is a clever idea to bring in these laws, because they can't just, tomorrow we can't all wake up and they say, hey, we're no longer a capitalist country, we're a communist country, right? They have to convince people of all these things, and then it's just like a different version of Marxist communism. That's all it is. It's a woke version where people think they're free. They're living under the illusion, even though I get it. We already live under the illusion of freedom with our votes counting and those types of things. But it's just going to get worse, literally, where, we have algorithms already monitoring what we say online. And that's a good thing for me, since I'm so trans, that the algorithm should support me and prop me up in the search engine here on Google and on YouTube. But not only will they be monitoring what we say online, it'll be in society. So if you go to a restaurant and there's a guy wearing a wig and you call him her and he still identifies as a he, even though he's wearing a wig and has lipstick on, well, you might go to jail. Oh, yeah, because this all makes sense, right? There's actually people men who wear wigs, lipstick, and dresses who still identify as he, him. So how are you supposed to know? Are we all going to wear name tags with our pronouns? Probably. Or even better, for these insane people, we'll have them tattooed on our forehead. So welcome, everybody, to the wonderful world of the liberal world order. A reminder, check out my other channel if you haven't subscribed yet. The link is below. I need to get those subscribers, all you guys over there. There's 15,000 here. There's only about 4,000 plus over there. I know it takes time. I know everybody doesn't watch every single video I upload. So if you're hearing this for the first time, please take the time to click the link below, click subscribe. I have to have multiple channels for obvious reasons. So I hope to see more people over there. Thank everyone for your support. Hope you're doing well. God bless you and your families.